So I had a trip going to the Bahamas to film some travel videos for my friends' YouTube channels. And I really wanted to step up my underwater rig from the GoPro underwater footage that we're all so used to seeing to some higher end mirrorless DSLR cameras like this one underwater. Now, if you ever looked into underwater rigs for any type of nice camera like a Sony a7S III, then you'll know that they can be very expensive, sometimes even more expensive than the camera body and lens. Upon my research, I did happen to stumble across this one company who seemed to have figured it out and made a travel-friendly yet still affordable underwater rig for my camera. After browsing on their website for a bit and watching some YouTube reviews, I decided to take the risk and just buy it. This company is called Outex, and they had a few options on their website for you to choose from. Basically, what I needed was just the Pro Kit, which is the case for the body of the camera. I also wanted the dome attachment so that I can get those cool half underwater, half above water shots, because that was really the one thing I really wanted to capture for underwater shots. So even though I said they were more budget friendly, they're still kind of pricey. The case for the body is about $425, and then adding the dome kit onto it was another $400. In total, it came out to like $800 to $1,000 with shipping and tax. Hey, it's still cheaper than the $4,000 to $5,000 rigs I've seen out there that are big, clunky, and not travel friendly at all, and take a ton of time to set up. Now, after receiving the case and unboxing it, I can confidently say that I was completely lost and had no idea how to install it. I highly recommend you guys practice installing this case before you take it on any jobs, and go to their website and YouTube channel to see all their tutorials on how to properly set it up. Run through it a few times too to make sure you're confident in getting it ready, because the last thing you want is for someone to say, hey, we gotta jump in the water right now to get this shot, and then you're fumbling for 20 minutes to set up your case. The first thing I did after setting up a few times was test it out in my shower to see if it would work. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to fill up the hot tub and put it in the water and submerge it, but I did run it through the rain shower tests and it passed, but looking back at it, I probably should have submerged it just to be safe. So after graduating the shower test, I think the next logical step is to take it into the deep blue ocean of the Bahamas. So this is actually my first time ever shooting underwater photography and videography, and I already had an idea that it would be tougher than being on dry land with air. But let me stress, it is very hard and difficult to operate your camera underwater. I do feel that in times like this, it is more convenient to rely on the auto settings of your camera rather than you trying to manually control the shutter, the ISO, the aperture. It's tough. It's very tough. If you're shooting any type of video, highly recommend shooting in at least 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second so that you have the option to slow it down in post, because pretty much any underwater shot you've ever seen was most likely shot in 60p or 120p, because it's going to be that nice, smooth, slow look. Here are some of my favorite photos that I was able to capture during our trip in the Bahamas. Now you may be wondering, why aren't there more photos? It's the Bahamas. You should have gotten a lot of cool shots. Well, the reason for that is because water got in the case. Now don't worry, the camera's perfectly safe. The first time I used it in the Bahamas was on our trip to this sunken plane, which was really cool. And we wanted to get some shots of people swimming through the plane and anything else we could figure out. I personally don't have the best breath hold, so I couldn't really stay underwater that long. So I had to give the camera off to some other people to use it to get the shots. And I think they got some good shots. But after being there for about 30 minutes, I went back to the boat and brought out the drone to get some aerial shots. And one of the other guys wanted to just hold on to the camera to get some more shots. And at the time I thought, what could possibly go wrong? It's in a case, everything's fine. He won't break it, right? I made the grave mistake of leaving a $5,000 camera in the hands of someone who's never used that camera or underwater rig before. Looking back at it, probably a bad idea. After they came back to the boat, first thing I heard was, there's water in the camera, and my heart just sank. If you own a nice camera, then you know water plus camera is not a good mix, especially seawater. That's even worse than normal water. Luckily, after inspecting it, I saw that the water only came through the dome portion of the lens. And the way this dome is attached, it's attached to the front of the lens before going into the body. So there's like a whole nother barrier right there. So the water was only in the dome part. There's nothing in the actual body itself, which was awesome. Still, lesson learned. I don't know what happened. Since since I wasn't using it for about half an hour, I can't say what happened. Like, it's totally my fault for not being in control of it the whole time, but I figured it was user error, so I didn't think it was the actual case itself. The next day after the plane, we visited this cave called Thunderball's Grotto, which is pretty cool. It's like this little cave you gotta swim underneath into, and there's an opening at the top that's like a 20-foot drop that some people jump in. I really wanted to get some light leak rays from the opening into the water of my friend in the water swimming. I thought those would have looked really cool. So we tried to get those, and after like, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes, I noticed there were some leaks in the dome again, and I was the only one using it. At this point in time, I had no idea what was going on. Luckily, it was still only in the dome part. It wasn't in the camera itself. My friend still wanted to get some shots, so I said, let's try to get some last shots before I put it back on the boat, and I'm sure we got some usable footage as well. It wasn't all a complete loss. I was still disappointed on why water was coming through. So after using the Outex underwater camera case for my Sony a7S III for about a week, what are my thoughts? Well, it's okay. You might be wondering, why is it okay if water came through it? The reason I think water came through it comes down to user error. So the case came in a day before I got on the plane to the Bahamas, so I only had that night to practice installing the rig. And like I said, I only did a shower test, so that wasn't really a good test to determine if I installed it properly. My other 2 times installing it during the trip on the boat in the Bahamas, I was a little rushed, didn't have that much time. I think I may have either put on a washer backwards, or maybe I didn't have the right O-ring ready. I'm not sure. It could have been a mix of things. Or it could also be that I had a defected dome, because when I was watching the tutorials on their website, the dome pieces that they were using looked a little bit different than the one I was using. So I assumed that mine was just a newer version because these videos might have been older, but I don't know. The one thing I can say is that every time I did use it, water did not go into it immediately. I had at least a good 20 to 30 minutes before I noticed any water come in. So maybe there's a time limit of how long these seals are lasting, or maybe the longer it's in the water, the more chances there were for me to accidentally unscrew the dome itself. The way you tighten these things, it's basically just screwing it on. Tighter the better, I would assume. And I tighten it pretty hard, but overall, I do believe that you get what you pay for. And while this is by no means cheap, it is a great alternative to those more expensive rigs out there. Some of the best pros are the fact that it's very travel friendly, portable, doesn't take up that much space in your bag, and it's fairly quick to install once you get the process down. Like I said, my first time, it definitely took a while. After doing it a few times, I can say that it would take me probably like 5 minutes to make sure everything's tight. At the end of the day, it just depends on your needs. If you're shooting for Marriott hotels and you're getting some high quality travel videos, the budget probably calls for a more expensive and big rig. But if you're shooting some YouTube videos for fun, for friends, I think you're perfectly fine with this alternative. And the cool thing with Outex is that they have all these other attachments you can add on. Like, there was one attachment for an underwater flash. I really wanted to try that, but needed to test the waters first. No pun intended. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave any questions you have in the comment section below, like the video, and subscribe. Peace.